Good morning, friends. This is the fourth Sunday of Easter. The third Sunday after Easter, but the fourth Sunday of Easter, the Easter festival. We're heading towards this culmination where the disciples are gathered together. Various things are happening to them, personally, spiritually. Jesus is appearing to them. Lots of things are going on in their lives. They're wondering what comes next. And we're heading towards Pentecost and the Ascension, these two great festivals. Let's look at the collect and just see what insights it can bring us for this fourth Sunday of Easter. O Lord Christ, as thou didst at this season rise from the death into the wondrous power of an endless life. So there's the first statement we should take note of. This change from our level of existence, what you might call the human kingdom, into another plane altogether, is endless, outside time and space. Very important to note that. And the collect goes on, so may we, by thy most gracious help, rise from the darkness of sin into the ineffable splendor of conscious life in thee. Conscious life. We are asking for Christ to intervene, to interact, to open up our minds to this concept of a conscious connection with the Christ. So you might think, well, that's a bit strange. What does that mean? When we sleep, we change consciousness. Sometimes we dream and remember those dreams. And we're aware that it's not waking consciousness when we're having those dreams. When we open our eyes in the morning, the first thing we're aware of is we're alive. And that's good news, isn't it? Always good news to be alive when you wake up. And that is waking consciousness. The consciousness of Christ is altogether different. It's at a different level of awareness, fundamentally different level of awareness. And the collect is saying, this is our destiny. We can ask for this. If we strive and learn and understand and experience these things gradually, step after step, they can become a reality for us. Pretty exciting, isn't it? So Easter is not all about thinking about the crucifixion. It's actually part of it, yes, the growth period. It's learning the lessons after that. What was it all about and why go through that process? And these Sundays that follow the Easter time are unfolding the answer to that question. What was that thing all about on Easter and how does it affect us? These are the ways that it affects us. And then the Epistle, which Matt read from St. Paul. So St. Paul, you recall, didn't meet, wasn't part of the scene, wasn't part of the gang. He came afterwards. He was given a job, or took on the job, or asked for the job of persecuting Christians. And then he had that traumatic event. And for him, his consciousness changed profoundly during that event. He was said to be blinded for a period. And then he had visions of Jesus coming to him saying, what are you doing, Paul? Wake up. That's not what Jesus said. I'm just paraphrasing that. He said, get a hold of yourself. Find out what life is all about. And then follow me. And that's what Saul did, what his name was. And he became Paul after that. So he's writing now to the Colossians. As ye have therefore received Jesus Christ the Lord, so walk ye in him. So we listen to the collect and we hear about the aspirations from the collect. And we say, how are we going to do that? How are we going to learn to do that? Because I'd really like to do that. I'd really like to be conscious in Christ. If we look then at the Epistle, and even a little bit in the Gospel, we start to learn how we do that. You've been received in Christ. You've been taught, and all the rest of it. So, when you look at the gospel, for inspiration, with a question in mind, how do we have this relationship with Jesus? Very often when you read the gospel, you can see the answer that applies to you. It's always very personal, always directly personal, not necessarily the same to the person to your left or right, but it's absolutely right for you. And so Paul goes on to just explain the way to start is to get a foundation in the Christ. If you've got a foundation from baptism, for instance, from learning, you start and get your foundations correct. Always good to remember that. Start and get your thinking straight before you start this journey of full union with Christ. And then the particular passage says, set your affections on things above. What does that mean? Well, it means something that we've talked about before. If you really want something and you really like something, and it's of this world, I can guarantee, absolutely, you'll probably get there if you focus on it long enough, and eventually you'll find out it wasn't what you thought it was. Not such happy news, is it? That doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue things that are of interest. It doesn't mean to say you should learn about things. It doesn't mean to think you should value things in this life. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you absolutely pour all your expectations of endless wonderfulness into things on earth, it ain't going to happen. And, surprise, surprise, I'm not the first person to say that. Somebody called Gautama Buddha said that some time ago. What Jesus said is, and what Paul said, rephrasing what Jesus said, place your mind on the things of heaven. It talks about no rust and no thieves that break in. For you are dead to earth. What he's saying there is, if you've learnt that lesson, if you've learnt the lesson that you can enjoy life and you can rejoice in life and you can have all the wonderful experiences of life, if you've learnt that, that's great. And then if you've learnt the next lesson, don't put all your expectations of joy into it. Well, then you are dead to the repercussions. They don't affect you in the same way. You just enjoy it, but you don't expect that it'll last forever. It's just wonderful for a time. You set your mind on higher things. So this period of Sundays after Easter is to learn these lessons and to take them on board. And we have to remember them at the start of each day because we forget. And every Sunday we forget from Sunday to Sunday. And so being a Christian is not just rocking up on Sunday, coming to church. If we're going to change our consciousness so we genuinely unite with the consciousness of Christ, this is 24/7, we don't just turn that on and off. So we're aware of what journey we're on. The realization slowly dawns on us. The reality slowly dawns on us. But we are asking to be transformed. And that's the message of Easter. Christians are transformed if they choose to be. Becoming a Christian is a change in consciousness. That's the message of Easter, along with everything else.